Michael Yardney here for our weekly Rich Habits, Poor Habits webcast, welcoming Tom Corley. Hello, Tom.
Hi, Michael. How you doing in Australia?
Good, thank you. And today, Tom, I'd like to have a bit of a discussion with you about what your study found about the difference in the habits of men and women. I think we're going to come up with some interesting conclusions. And of course, this comes from your 5-year study, which you've documented in your books, and particularly in our latest joint book, Rich Habits, Poor Habits, that's actually doing really well in Australia, and I know is just coming online in the United States.
Yeah, it's we're excited about it. You and I. I've gotten some great feedback already from people that I sent copies of the book to. I've got people in the media that are looking at it. They're very interested, not only in the fact that we've got much more research in there, but now I've got your input, and so it's going to be kind of interesting to see how this is picked up by the media. In my opinion, I think it's going to be a big hit.
Well, I think it's because people are starting to recognise that a lot of what we do is on autopilot. It actually isn't done by choice. And these habits that you become, it has become so much part of you, are related to things you picked up as a child. And interestingly, you're passing them on to your family and your kids. So I think the session we're going to discuss today will be very interesting for anyone who is a parent or planning to become a parent. So, Tom, did you identify any habits that were particular to men as opposed to women, or the other way around?
Yeah, I actually did, Michael. I found a few of them, and for example, gambling. Gambling is actually what we call a poor habit, and but what was interesting is, in my research and also third-party data that I was able to get my hands on, which corroborated my research, I found that men actually are more apt to gamble than women. They're less risk-averse. They're more aggressive. Women are more cautious. They're more conservative when it comes to money. And the other interesting thing is, even if a woman does gamble, they gamble less frequently and they gamble with less money than men. So I thought that was very interesting. So if you look at it from the poor standpoint, it's a poor habit, but for women who are poor, they're really it's not so much of a poor habit for them. But I just thought that was an interesting.
Well, you brought up the concept of risk tolerance, because I guess in the field of money and investment, that makes a difference. So have you found that men have got a higher risk tolerance in general than females?
Yeah, I did find that out in my research and in the third-party studies that I've read. And this is important because, if you're a woman and you want to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have to come face to face with your predisposition to be, somewhat risk averse, just by your nature. You're going to have to be able to take on risk that you're uncomfortable with, because that's the nature of being an entrepreneur and starting a business.
Now, I know we're talking very broad generalizations, because I know some very, very successful female entrepreneurs, business people, and investors. So is being risk tolerant a good thing or a bad thing, Tom?
Oh, I think it can be both. I think, too much of a good thing, right, Michael? It'll get you in trouble. So I think what I found with my research was that the successful entrepreneurs, the self-made millionaires, they took risk, but they took a type of risk that I call calculated risk. So, having a high risk tolerance is great, as long as you understand that you've got to take calculated risk. It doesn't matter whether your tolerance is higher or lower than somebody else's. What matters is the type of homework that you do before you take the risk. That's what's the most important thing.
I think I've found women are apt to study the detail of major purchases more than men. And that's a good thing in some ways, Tom, because the devil is often in the detail. So understanding the detail can often save you making some of those fast, quick, big picture mistakes that men occasionally do. So I'd agree with you, Tom. Tom, one of the habits that you found in the past in your studies is that wealthy people, successful people read more. Was there much of a difference between men and women when you looked at that?
Yeah, there was. Women read more than men, and that's the good news, Michael. But the bad news is they read more for entertainment, whereas the men read more for self-improvement and to gain some knowledge within their industry. So I think that's the only reading you should be doing if you're trying to grow a business, you're trying to become successful. You can't waste your time getting involved with entertainment reading. So that's something that actually is a negative for women when it comes to reading.
Now, clearly, as some of our viewers watch this, we're going to offend somebody, whether it's a female or a male, and that's really not the intention of this at all. I think what we're trying to do today, Tom, is talk about the study that you've done that went over 5 years and discussed a very large number of, a very large number of successful people and not so rich people. And this is not a judgment of people, whether they're rich or poor or male or female. It's just some facts that you've come up with. Isn't that right, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, you can shoot the messenger all you want, but the facts are the facts. And it's not just my data. I've got third-party data. I've got studies. I've got research material that supports just about everything that I found in my study. So, yeah, you can get mad at me all you want or us, but the facts are the facts. There are certain things that, look, you want to be aware of these things. You don't, if you're going to be taking on a new business or you want to become successful, you need to understand yourself, right, Michael? You got to know thyself. That's what Shakespeare said. Know thyself, for thine own self be true.
One of the success traits of good business people and entrepreneurs is that they're good communicators and they can get their message across to people. Did you find a difference between the women and men in this regard?
Yeah, actually, women are better communicators by about 325%.
There you go. So women are much better at some things, aren't they?
Yeah, and actually, this is one of the most important data points because communication is critical to success. Why? Because what you want to do is get feedback from others, and women are really great at getting feedback. Feedback's one of the ways that you avoid mistakes. It's one of the ways that you're able to pivot. And if you're a good communicator, you're going to fail less. So women, when they do go into business, the data indicates that they are more successful, meaning they have a higher rate of success than the men do. And it's really, I think, comes down to this one rich habit. Their ability to communicate is just far superior than men.
Okay, when you're starting off a business or when you're growing a business, you've got to have some foresight. Is there much difference between men and women in their creativity, Tom?
Yeah, well, this one, the women aren't going to like my answer to this. So there's something called the corpus callosum. This is the nerve fibers that run through the middle of the brain. It actually separates the right hemisphere from the left hemisphere. The individuals who are very creative have a very small corpus callosum, and it just happens to be physiologically men have a smaller corpus callosum than women, which means men are physiologically just more creative than women. You see, when that corpus callosum is smaller, that means the two hemispheres can communicate a lot quicker and a lot easier. So women have this disadvantage with the physiology of their brain.
Okay, so as we're working through the various rich habits, poor habits, differences between men and women, one more I'd like to discuss, and that's organizational skills. Tom, is there much difference in that regard?
Yeah, it's, because women are, I guess, because they're more risk averse. They take their time when they're analyzing things. They're more detail oriented than men. And they're better organizers than men. So women in an organization, in a business, they actually do a better job running the business because they have stronger organization skills.
So that's really interesting, Tom. Thank you. I think it really shows that men are better at some things and women are better at other things. And on balance, we need both sides to create a good partnership. So, Tom, I think what we've now covered are some of the differences in men and women coming from your rich habits. And I think it's really important for people watching this to remember that a lot of these habits are ingrained and you're not aware of them. And that's why I think our books and our studies and these various, your blogs, my blogs, and these videos are just a good way of alerting you, making you aware of some of the habits that you can tweak and twist a bit. And in future sessions, we're going to talk a bit about how to make those habits become more aware of them and how to change them. Tom, thank you very much. I look forward to having a chat with you again next week.
Same here, Michael.